Welcome to Focus Wherever. In today's DIY series video, I'm going to show you how to replace an in-ground sprinkler in just a few easy steps. This is a typical in-ground sprinkler for a residential irrigation system. There are a number of companies that make these. This particular one is Rainbird. If you're doing a replacement on a sprinkler head, it's not critical to buy the same company as the one you're getting rid of, but you do want to make sure that you match the type and the spray distance of the outgoing one with your replacement. And what I mean by that is this model is a continuous spray type sprinkler, meaning that it sprays an even pattern of water over the spray area in a continuous manner, as opposed to a rotary or gear-driven sprinkler head that may have one or more, let's call them jets of water, that move across the spray area. And in terms of spray distance, this one is rated for 8 to 15 feet, which is a match for the sprinkler head coming out. If you try to move to a sprinkler with a longer spray distance or change to one of the other styles, rotary versus continuous, it could negatively impact the performance of both the new sprinkler head or the other sprinklers on that zone, primarily driven by the water pressure on that zone. If it's not sufficient, if you're asking it to do more than it's designed to do, it may not have enough flow to support a different type of sprinkler head. All of the information you need to select a proper replacement will be on the side of the sprinkler head itself. As I mentioned, this is a continuous spray type sprinkler head with spray distance ranging from 8 to 15 feet. That's adjustable by this screw on the top to set the spray distance in that range. This one is an adjustable spray pattern from 0 to 360 degrees. The location I'm replacing today is at the corner of a deck, so it's a 270 degree spray pattern, and that adjustment is done on the sprinkler head itself once it's up out of the housing. We'll show that in a little bit. And then the connection itself, the threaded fitting to your supply line, tells you the size of that on the packaging. In terms of its construction, it's two primary parts. The plastic body here. The only thing noteworthy about this is that I don't know how well it'll show up on camera, but has these notches that run down the side. That's used to set where the spray pattern will be aimed. The spray pattern is shown by the dots on the top. Again, this one isn't adjustable from 0 to 360, so it can do a full circle, but they have others that are predetermined fixed spray ranges, 90, 180, 360, that type of thing. And in that case, the dots will show you the spray direction. So you'd seat this in the notches to aim in the direction that you want the spray. On the other half of the sprinkler, you have this spring, which is actually applying downward pressure so that when the sprinkler is off, it retracts the sprinkler head. This spring is designed to be a match for the water pressure on the zone, so that when the water pressure flows into the sprinkler head, it produces enough force to overcome the downward force of the spring and lift the sprinkler head. This particular sprinkler head is a 4-inch length. The spray nozzle itself, as I mentioned earlier, this is an adjustable pattern. That's done by this ring right here to adjust how wide the sprinkler spray pattern is. Inside the head itself, you have the screen here to block anything from getting up into the spray nozzle. If things get up in there, they can be quite hard to remove, so it's good that they have this screen to prevent any pebbles or grass from getting lodged up in there. It totally prevents a normal spray if it manages to get all the way up into the outlet itself. So how do these break? What can happen to create a need to replace the entire sprinkler? Well, typically it's some form of damage to the top here. This spring can become weak or bind up, or something can interfere with the sprinkler head's ability to retract, which will leave the sprinkler head in the up position even when the system is not running. And at that point, it's just a matter of time before it gets hit by the mower or the string trimmer, and typically it'll just take the entire tube right off. This plastic cap can also get cracked. Same type of thing, foot traffic, mowers, string trimmers. I think in my case, just not being careful enough with the string trimmer, I've cracked the plastic in this area. There may be situations where you don't have to replace the entire assembly, but I would caution against that. If you're going to try to replace the inner portion only, you need to be very sure it's an exact match for the body of the sprinkler. And that can be hard to do because the body is buried in the ground, so you can't see the model number. And even if you pull it out or pull the dirt back to see it, typically the moisture over the years has made this sticker fall apart. So if you're sure that your top assembly is a perfect fit, because it needs to align with the ridges and the notches and fit in there properly, and the threads need to be a match. If you're sure you have an exact replacement, you may be able to get away with replacing only the top, but if you have any doubt at all, the best bet is to replace the entire assembly, which is what we're going to do today. It's usually pretty evident when a sprinkler head is damaged or cracked to the extent that it needs to be replaced versus just needing maintenance. You'll see that in the video of my damaged sprinkler head in a minute. When it's cracked, the spray pattern won't be anything like its normal behavior. You may also see that water is coming out of the threaded connection here. If that for some reason is no longer a good tight fit, you're going to have to replace the entire sprinkler head assembly. But you may have a case where you don't have any leaking here, you don't have any irregular spray, it's just not a full spray pattern, or it's just not the distance it once was. And in that case, there may just be something up against the screen that's preventing full pressure from reaching the outlet. And that's a pretty easy thing to check, so unless you're sure that you've got damage that requires a full replacement, it's a good place to start to just do a little maintenance on the sprinkler head. This tool will allow you to extract and hold the sprinkler head while the sprinkler is off. And now you can disassemble the top. And again, here's the screen. If there's anything up against the screen, clean it off. Reassemble and see if that solves your problem. So now that we've looked at the basic parts of a typical residential sprinkler head and talked about the things that can go wrong, let's head out back and replace my cracked sprinkler. First, a quick look at the supplies and tools you'll need to complete the job. I'll talk about how each is used as I go through the replacement process. Of course, you're going to need the replacement sprinkler, selected as I described earlier in the video. You'll also need a garden trowel and some PTFE or Teflon type thread seal tape. It also helps to have a trash bag, some paper towels, and some gloves. Critical among these items is something to hold the supply line up out of the hole we're going to create. I'm using a Coke can, but it can be anything that can get dirty and wet. A small screwdriver is used to adjust the spray distance on the top of the sprinkler head. and scissors, a plastic grocery bag, and a cup of water make the job easier. And finally, one of these two types of clamps is useful for adjusting the spray pattern or performing maintenance. The sprinkler tool on the right allows you to extract and clamp the sprinkler head while the system is off. If you don't have that, you can use a regular clamp and clamp it while the system's on, but you might get a little wet as you approach it. Either way, these will hold the sprinkler head up while the system is off, so you can do that maintenance or spray pattern adjustment. Next, you need to determine which zone your broken sprinkler head is on. Your interaction with your control panel might be slightly different, but here's how it works on my Rainbird. Start by turning the knob to manual station. Use the forward arrow to select the zone you want to check. Press and hold the same forward arrow button to manually activate the zone you've selected. Next, go outside and see if your broken sprinkler is running. Repeat the process until you've found which zone the sprinkler is on. Between testing different zones, and once you've found which zone it's on, turn the knob on your control panel to the off position. The lines are not pressurized when the zone or the sprinkler system as a whole is turned off. With the control panel knob turned to the off position, we're ready to remove the broken sprinkler. Start by pulling back any grass covering the sprinkler and remove any objects around it, like this concrete guard. With your gloves on, now it's time to play in the dirt. Using the garden trowel, start to dig a hole next to the sprinkler. The goal here is to uncover enough of the supply line to easily access the connection with the sprinkler. The supply line may be a rigid PVC tube or a flexible rubberized tube. Either way, you need to be very careful using a combination of the garden trowel and your hands to uncover it so that you don't cause any damage. What I'm showing today is a replacement on a flexible type supply line. The hole I've dug to uncover the supply line is rectangular shaped. This allows me to bend the line slightly to complete the replacement up out of the hole. If you have a rigid supply line, you'll have to do the replacement down in the hole. In that case, dig a more circular hole around the sprinkler, going far enough back and underneath so that no dirt falls in the line while you're replacing the sprinkler. Placing the dirt you dig out on a trash bag makes it much easier to put back in the hole. Here's a look at the threaded connection between the supply line and the sprinkler where the white tape is showing. Remove the sprinkler by firmly holding the supply line elbow stationary and twist the sprinkler counterclockwise until it comes free. Then position whatever object you brought along to hold the supply line out of the hole. Remove the old Teflon tape and use the cup of water to clean the supply line elbow and threads. Use a paper towel to dry the threads and remove any remaining sand or dirt. Now it's time to put new thread seal tape on the supply line elbow. You'll want to use enough tape to wrap the threads about 3 times. It's critical to wrap the tape around the threads in a clockwise direction and leave the first thread closest to the outlet uncovered. Next, attach the new sprinkler to the threaded connection by twisting in a clockwise motion. Tighten it by hand until it's nice and snug, but don't over-tighten the connection. With the new sprinkler fully seated, some of the tape may still be visible at the connection point. We'll be checking this union for leaks shortly. With the sprinkler still out of the hole, remove the top and set it aside. We're going to briefly flush the line. If you're doing this on a rigid supply line and your sprinkler is still down in the hole, make sure the top of the uncovered sprinkler is above the level where the water will collect when we flush the line. If it's not, skip this step. We don't want the water that collects around the sprinkler during the flush to carry dirt and sand back into the line. Flushing the line involves the same steps I did when determining which zone my broken sprinkler was on. Turn the dial to the manual station position. Then press the forward arrow key until the previously determined zone comes up on the screen. Press and hold the forward arrow key until the zone activates. The screen will give an indication that it's started. The line doesn't need to flush for long, so stay at the panel and count to 10. While you're doing that, this will be what's going on outside. After 10 seconds, turn the dial to the off position. The system will shut down and the water will stop flowing. Now reinstall the top. Again, hand tighten only till it's nice and snug, but don't over tighten. Next, we're going to check the top of the sprinkler and the connection for leaks. Once again, manually activate this zone from the control panel, just like you did before. But this time leave it running and come back outside to inspect the top and the supply line union for leaks. My connections are good, with no water coming out of either threaded location. The water you see is spraying over from a nearby sprinkler. To complete this step, go back inside and turn the panel to the off position. We're in the home stretch, but now's a good time to take a quick break. If you used a drink can like I did, rinse it off and enjoy your beverage. Throw it in the recycling and we're ready to finish this job off. Position the new sprinkler so that the bottom edge of the top cap is about 1/2 to 3/4 inch above where the dirt level will fill back in. Slide your trash bag over and refill the hole with the dirt. Because of the water you're displacing as you refill the hole with dirt, the dirt should become soft enough to allow for fine adjustments of the sprinkler position. This is not how the sprinkler should be installed. This is what it should look like with all the dirt back in place. Again, the bottom edge of the cap should be about 1/2 to 3/4 inch above the dirt. Use the plastic grocery bag to collect up any trash and loose grass. Rinsed off, and with the metal spring removed, the old broken sprinkler can be recycled as well. It's time to put back some grass. You may have been able to preserve the grass from before you dug the hole. I was not, so I transplanted some from a different part of my yard. My St. Augustine grass is very aggressive and likes to spread out. So I gave a mulch bed a fresh edge and moved that grass over to this spot. We're down to the final step, which is aiming and adjusting. Begin this by manually turning on the same zone again. Here's how mine looked on first operation. The spray is too short and it's not the 270 degrees we need to cover the corner of the deck. We'll start by adjusting the spray distance. That's done by using a small screwdriver to turn the screw on the top of the sprinkler head. Follow your sprinkler's instructions on how to add or remove distance to the spray. In my case, a clockwise turn lengthens the spray. Next, using the sprinkler tool or a clamp, hold the sprinkler head up and adjust the spray coverage by turning the collar near the top of the sprinkler head. With those two adjustments done, I've got the right range and I've got the right distance, but it's aiming the wrong direction. To fix this, start by turning off the zone as you have before. To change the aim, unscrew the top, turn the entire assembly to aim in the direction you want, and tighten it back down. As I mentioned earlier, a sprinkler with a fixed spray pattern will have dots to indicate the coverage of the spray, and you can use those to determine where you need to aim it. And finally, manually turn the same zone on one more time and check that everything is the way you want it. Once you've got everything properly aimed and adjusted, turn the system back to stop. Then turn it to run so your program will begin as normally scheduled. Job complete.